All right, good day, everybody. This is E. Marcel Pursuit. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Inquirer Show. We're broadcasting live on April 26, 2021. Hope all is well for you out in the world. We have a full show for you today. We're going to start with the original free kick and recap Atlanta United's win over the Chicago Fire this past Saturday night. I have some thoughts on that, as well as audio from several participants in the contest. We'll transition into the technical state of Georgia athletics. The Georgia State football team held its spring contest over this past weekend. We will hear from head coach Geoff Collins and Jeff Sims, the quarterback for the team, on that performance. We'll go into the verbal submission where we will recap UFC 261 and all the activities that took place in that mixed martial arts contest or event. And then finally, our interview feature, we will speak with Georgia State men's golf head coach Chad Wilson as the Panthers progress through the Sun Belt tournament, which is currently taking place. As always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, you can head to the mothership, thesportsinquirer.net. You can also go to our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. And finally, you can subscribe to us on our audio and video content providers such as YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcast, and iTunes. Do a search for us on there under the Sports Inquirer. Like us, subscribe to us, and that would be greatly appreciated. And it's also good for you, the listener or watcher, because every time that we produce new content, it'll automatically upload to those platforms. You'll get a notice and you'll be able to keep up with everything that we're doing. I personally use it for several platforms myself, and it's a very good way to keep track of all of their activities, and I know you would enjoy it as well for us. Let's go straight to the show. Actually, no, before we go straight to the show, I'll give you an update on everything that's going on in our world. As you know, we're based in Metro Atlanta, and it's a transitional time for us. I was speaking with family a few days ago, and they're asking what's going on and what sports are taking place. And I'm like, this is. I always say the spring, which we're in right now, and the fall, late spring, early fall are always the busiest times on the sports calendar. As I've mentioned, even on this show alone, you have spring sports or spring/summer sports like Major League Soccer taking place, baseball are really getting their beginnings. You have the spring sports of college athletics, such as golf and baseball and softball. They're heading towards the end of their seasons, and even football. We're going to go over Georgia Tech football, the spring practices. Those are taking place. So you have a lot of seasons that are ending or heading towards the end professionally, such as Major League, well, such as NBA and NHL, and you also have some leagues that are beginning, like Major League Baseball. And that's not even including the NFL draft, which I may have some thoughts on at the very end of the show. The NFL draft brings up the NFL again, and that takes place this week. So you have all of that going on. So it's been a very busy time as far as content following for the site. And that's good because it gives us plenty to listen, plenty to watch, and to analyze. So things are going well, on that front. And really, the weather's good. Spring is here, so that's fine. We like that. But yeah, just trying to make it through these days, man. Just still trying to stay safe. If you're with COVID and everything going on there, some are getting vaccinated. Some not. I'll tell you, I did get my first vaccination, and my next one is early next week. So that's just keeping health tabs and keeping things up, staying away from as many people as I can, and but still trying to be productive and live a life. So once it's just a time right now to really focus on those type of things. And the good part is we have all the sports to keep track, for me to keep track of and to watch and follow. Watch my Netflix, and I'm good. All right, so let's go to the original free kick and recap Atlanta United's win over the Chicago Fire. The Five Stripes were able to defeat Chicago 3-1 on Saturday, April 24th, for its first win in MLS play. Remember, they opened up the MLS season the previous week with a 0-0 draw at Orlando City. Goals by Ezequiel Barco and Emerson Hyman paced the Five Stripes, scoring in the victory. Here is manager Gabriel Heinze of Atlanta on the victory.
¿Cómo me sentía yo? Sí.
How I felt myself. ¿Y cómo se va a sentir un entrenador contento porque ha hecho un gol su equipo? How do you think a coach is going to feel when his team score a goal? Like very happy. Y estaba ya pensando en darle indicaciones a otros compañeros y casi ni vi el gol. I was also thinking to give some guidance to other players. I didn't even see the goal. Pero la alegría de marcar un gol, the happiness to score a goal, plena, is maximum. Sino que se lo pregunte a los aficionados. And you could also ask the supporters.
And here is Ezequiel Barco, Ezequiel Barco, one of the goal scorers for Atlanta. His thoughts on the victory.
Muy contento, como dije antes, muy contento porque el equipo sacó adelante un partido muy difícil, muy duro, muy trabado. Sabíamos desde el principio que eso nos iba a complicar. Por suerte, bueno, me tocó marcar, poder ayudar al equipo con el primer gol. Y nada, creo que fuimos muy dominantes del partido, creamos muchísimas situaciones de gol y fue un justo triunfo para nosotros.
I think, as I said, just very happy that the team was able to get a win in a difficult game, which we knew would be coming into it. Happy to score the goal, happy to help the team with the win. And I think it just shows the great effort that we're putting in.
And we'll go right to Barco because he scored the first goal of the contest for Atlanta in the 23rd minute. He drew a foul just outside of the penalty area in the 23rd minute. He had a free kick that hit the Chicago defensive wall. The rebound fell right to him just outside the box, and he blasted the right-footed shot that curled the crossbar into the top left corner for the goal. It was his 11th goal of his career in MLS play. It was probably the best goal. It's been 2 weeks of MLS play. But it was maybe the best goal we've seen so far this year, definitely for Atlanta United. As far as goal scoring, it was the number one highlight in Sunday morning. I was in the gym and saw that it was the number one highlight for, I guess, the Sports Center's top 10 on ESPN. So it was a tremendous goal for Atlanta, giving them the 1-0 lead. Here is Barco on that first goal.
Hola, buenas noches. No, la verdad que muy contento porque se hizo un gran partido. El equipo pudo sacar adelante un partido muy difícil. La verdad que nada, estamos muy contentos por el gran triunfo que merecimos. Y nada, después, gracias a Dios, pude convertir, darle una mano al equipo. Y nada, estaba muy contento y por eso fui a gritarlo con los chicos en el banco y todos juntos.
I'm really happy that the team was able to come out with the win in a game that I thought we played well and I thought we deserved it. But it was difficult, but I'm just happy with the way the team came through. And of course, I'm happy to score a goal and then to be able to celebrate it with all my teammates on the bench.
And Atlanta had good offensive opportunities throughout the first half. Also, Marcelino Moreno had a shot hit off the post in the first half. It went right to Hyman, and he tried to hit the ball with his right foot and hit the side net, so he missed the open goal or open net opportunity there. Brad Guzan, the goalkeeper for Atlanta, did have to make some big saves, including in the 38th minute when he stopped a shot by Ofer of Chicago in the 38th minute. As I said, in the rebound went to another Chicago player, and he stopped that shot as well. Guzan had 5 saves overall in the contest. It's the most that he's made in an MLS contest since October of 2020 against Toronto. Now, the first half did cause trouble for Atlanta as well when Brooks Lennon, he was subbed off at halftime. He didn't clash heads with the Chicago player. He was going for a header or going for the ball, and his neck went into kind of the back, his head went to the back neck area of a Chicago player, and it caused a welt on his eye, and he was subbed off at halftime due to concussion protocols. Interesting note on that, it's the first use of the league's new concussion substitute rule. So it means that he was able to leave the contest and be replaced without it counting against Atlanta's substitution limit. So that's been a big push by a lot of people to have, and what it does is that it avoids that awkward situation of having to substitute a player and lose one of your subs, even if he's concussed or has a head injury of any form, but usually it's concussion. So that was the first time we've seen it used so far in Major League Soccer. compliments to that of head injuries or being able to evaluate them and treat them as seriously as they need to be. So that was not good that Brooks Lennon suffered the head injury and concussion, and we'll have to see about his availability for upcoming Atlanta contest. But it was good to see that rule being executed and put into place for proper reasons. Now, Chicago was able to equalize the contest and make the score 1-1 in the first and early into the second half in the 46th minute when Luka Stojanovic was able to hit a shot that eluded several Atlanta defenders and went into the back post. So Atlanta was struggling with that, and I said the score was tied 1-1, but they were able to take the lead again and make the score 2-1 in the 66th minute on an own goal from Johan Kappelhoff. Marcelino Moreno had a very nice cross into the Chicago area, into Chicago penalty area. Now, Bobby Shuttleworth, the Chicago goalkeeper, went out to pursue the ball, but he was only able to slightly touch it, and the ball was hit by Kappelhoff and directed into the back of the net for an own goal. So Atlanta was able to take the lead 2-1 with that increased offensive pressure in the second half after conceding the goal. Here is Barco on rebounding, or the team rebounding, from giving up that early second half goal.
Sí, estoy de acuerdo con Jay. Creo que el año pasado sufríamos unos golpes con los goles muy rápidamente y el equipo automáticamente se desmoronaba y se venía muy rápido abajo. Creo que hoy el equipo lo sacó adelante, quiso ganarlo constantemente, lo quisimos ganar en lo que quedaba del segundo tiempo y fuimos, seguimos intentando con la idea de juego como nos pide el técnico y nada, por suerte pudimos conseguir los 3 puntos que fueron muy importantes para nosotros y para lo que viene.
Yeah, I agree with what Jake said. I think last year the team, we could have reacted like that, but I think tonight you saw that this group wants to win. So we went out in the second half and we tried to win the game, try to do what the coaching staff was asking of us. And I think that, that just shows what this group is made of.
Yeah, as he mentioned, this time last year, when under manager Frank de Boer and to a lesser degree Stephen Glass, when he was the interim coach, the team would concede goals and struggle with that. But we've seen with this new grouping or this new lineup and a new manager Gabriel Heinze, the team has really, Atlanta has found a way to show resolve and have comeback efforts, or be able to recover from those type of situations. The game was put away in the 85th minute on Hyman's goal. Jake Mulraney received a pass from Jurgen Damm near the edge of the 6-yard box. Mulraney did a very nice job going into the penalty area and going towards goal. He had a nice spin move, a nice little pirouette past several Chicago defenders, and had a left-footed shot that was saved by Shuttleworth, and a very spectacular shot and attempt. Now the rebound fell right to Hyman, and he was able to hammer the ball into the back of the net to make the score 3-1 in the 85th minute. It was Hyman's 4th goal in league play for Atlanta United. The team has won all 4 contests when Hyman has scored a goal in MLS play. Here is Mulraney on that 3rd team goal.
I seen Jurgen chop. I knew the chop was coming. Jurgen's chop is unbelievable. I seen the chop come. I quickly glanced and I seen the boy, so I was going to hit it with me right, and then it ended up going on to me left, and I just shimmied, and it's just all like off the cuff. I didn't think of doing it. It just happened, and I'm disgusted with myself, to be honest with you, because I should have got 2 tonight. But I'm so happy that Emma was there to score.
Yeah, so I don't know if he intentionally wanted to do all of that in the penalty area and get that shot off, but as he said, he saw several defenders and he was trying to work around them, and I said that would have been maybe even a better goal than Barco's if he was able to score. But good job by Hyman to be in the penalty area and be available to get that rebound and able to push the shot into the net. Some other notes from the match: Atlanta has won its home opener for the 2nd consecutive year, and they improved to 3-1-1 all time in home openers. And also respect to the crowd and just all the people that have worked hard to have fans in attendance. I was unable to attend the contest, but it was good to hear a crowd and see the energy of about 50% capacity Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So I know it's been a lot of work put into by MLS, by Atlanta United, and by health officials all around, not just Atlanta and Georgia, but around the world to allow fans in attendance. So that was a very good moment to see all those people in the stadium. Not 100% capacity yet because we still have to be cautious about everything going on. But it was very good to see a good amount of people in the stands and making noise. And you could tell from the talking to the players and the manager, having those fans in the stands was a major difference. Going back to Hyman, he completed a game high 34 passes in the opponent's half. So he completed, that was 80, he had 85% completion rate in the opponent's section of the field. So he has really made himself a major playmaker in Heinze's offense. Jack Gurr and Eric Lopez made their MLS debuts for Atlanta United in the victory. And defender Miles Robinson led the team with 4 clearances. So once again, Atlanta has only conceded 1 goal in 4 matches this season. And guys like Miles Robinson, Guzan, and that defensive back line have been a major factor in that. And as I said, Atlanta extended its unbeaten streak or undefeated streak to 4 matches to start the 2021 campaign. Remember, they were able to win both of their contests against Alajuelense in the round of 16 of the Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League. They had the 0-0 draw to open up MLS play at Orlando City, and this 3-1 victory over the Chicago Fire. Here is Heinze on the season to date for Atlanta United.
Bueno, a mí me cuesta analizar las transiciones porque para mí el juego es un todo. For me, it's hard to analyze transitions because for me the game is one. Hoy el equipo ha hecho un buen trabajo. I think the team did a good job. Podríamos haber recibido también otros goles. We could also have received some goals too. Y nosotros también haber hecho otros goles más. And we could also score some goals too. Pero bueno, este es el camino que por lo menos yo voy a proponer a este equipo. But this is the path I want to try to teach my group.
And Atlanta will host the Philadelphia Union in the quarterfinals of the Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League on April 27th, which is tomorrow, if you're listening to us today. Or if you're listening to us on the 27th, the contest will be later today. Or if you're listening afterwards, it was on April 27th. The next MLS contest for Atlanta will be at the New England Revolution on May 1st, which is this upcoming Saturday. So make sure you continue to follow us on the Sports Inquirer, and we will have continued updates of everything Atlanta United related that we can. Now let's just transition to the technical state of Georgia athletics and focus on Georgia Tech football. The Yellow Jackets had their spring contest on April 23rd, and it was a similar deal as I mentioned with the fans and spectators for the Atlanta United. Same deal with Georgia Tech. You were able to see fans in the stands and they'll be able to see their squad. A lot of season ticket holders and students and things like that. Once again, respect to Georgia Tech and all the health administrators for making that happen. You have to acknowledge that. And it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifices made by a lot of entities to have fans in attendance of sporting events of all levels. And so respect to the Georgia Tech administration and all of the healthcare providers in the state of Georgia and around the world for once again having contests. The match itself, this was a little bit different of a spring game. There really wasn't, scores were kept, but they were continually changed and things like that. So there was really not a winner and a loser. I guess everyone won the contest. So if you were a fan of the gold or the white or whatever, but some highlights offensively from the contest. Freshman quarterback Jeff Sims continues to impress. He had 173 yards of total offense and 3 touchdowns in the contest. He had a 48-yard touchdown run on the 4th play of the scrimmage, and he completed 9 of 10 passes for 125 yards and 2 TD passes on the night. So Sims continues to show that he is developing into potentially one of the better underclassmen quarterbacks in the entire nation and definitely in the ACC. Here is head coach of Georgia Tech, Geoff Collins, on Sims' development this offseason.
Yeah, I thought he's done a really good job. We've played a lot of situational football this spring, a lot of 2-minute drills. But the biggest thing with Geoff and with Jordan is just knowing where to go with the ball. There's not a lot of hesitation. They understand our scheme. They understand the plays. They understand the reads, the progressions. They understand what the coverage is, where the pressure, where the rotations, and they know where to go with the football. And you saw that on display on that last drive with Geoff, making quick decisions, delivering the football, trusting his protection in front of him, and just excited to continue moving forward with that development and progression.
And the media were able to catch up with Sims after the contest, and he discussed his improvements in the offseason.
I would say I could find myself getting a lot of times hectic in the pocket, like ready to run or just throw the ball away. So just staying calm and trusting my O-line and just staying back there and reading the defense out and completing my passes. I feel like I've grown a lot in that area.
Yeah, and those 2 touchdown passes were to Kyrick McGowan and Dylan Leonard for the Yellow Jacket, at least for the Sims passes and TD passes in the contest. Here is Sims on the ball distribution to his receivers.
Yeah, just getting everybody the ball, dishing it out. And I know I didn't really complete the ball to the tight ends a lot last year. And they would kind of get on me about that. But, so I made it my goal to get better at that and just give everybody a chance to make a play.
And obviously the spring season allows for the rapport to be built between Sims and his receivers. He touched on that. Yeah, and finally, to wrap up the offensive side of things for Georgia Tech, you're seeing the offensive line continue to build itself up. That was a top priority for Georgia Tech when Geoff Collins came into the program 2 years ago, is to improve the line play, which was inferior prior to his tenure, from the lack of numbers to the lack of size and strength of those players that were on the roster. That's been a major priority for the Yellow Jackets. And you're starting to see that improvement on their offensive line. Here is senior lineman Ryan Johnson on the building of this offensive line over the past 2 years.
The offensive line has made a lot of progress. Especially since last year, we've made a lot of strides, a lot of improvement, not only in just the knowledge of the game, but also our strength. We've got a lot of guys that can help us, a lot of guys that are on the field, but also that are backing up, that have come along, really stepped up. Obviously, bringing in Devin Cochran, we've got Paula that's just really taking strides forward. Mikey is really done a great job at improving, taking charge of the offensive line, taking charge of the offense as a whole, making really great decisions, making really great calls. Jordan has really improved over the past couple of months, and I'm really impressed with him. You know, he's got a lot of playing time under his belt as a freshman, and he's handled himself very well. A lot of guys like Austin Smith have really stepped up and started playing really well, and bringing in the 3 freshmen have really or 2 freshmen, Weston and Jakaya, have really shown some improvement and shown great strides. They're going to be great weapons for us. They're doing a good job at trying to learn everything they can from the older guys, trying to improve. And then obviously Nick Penley coming in is a great help as well. I've seen a lot of improvement out of him, and he's going to be a really great football player. He's a really great football player, and I think he's going to help our team a whole lot. So in the long version, that's where I think the offensive line is.
And Johnson elaborated on his improvements and what he's been working on in the offseason. So let's hear from Johnson once again.
Yeah, so when I came back this year, I really wanted to improve my game, and not just on the field, but also in the film room. And I think I have, along with the help of Coach Key and Coach P, and also Coach Collins, I've learned a whole lot more about the game. Whether it's from just the offensive point of view as to why we're running a play, to the defensive point of view, to understanding defensive schemes, defensive concepts, and why they're doing that, and why they're doing it when they're doing it. And so I think that's very helpful in the game of football, especially as an offensive lineman. You know, I really like studying the game of football, and to me, it's like a chess game, right? And the more that you can know, not just about your strategy, right? Because everybody can have a different strategy in chess. You know, there's some people that are active, some people are passive, some people do trickery here and there, and it's the same thing in the game of football. So the more you know about yourself, right, the better you can play, but also the more you know about the person in front of you, you can play better. So that's what I've been trying to do in the game of football, and that's what I think Coach Key's helped me a lot with. From the field side of things, I think Coach Key has really helped me work on my technique. I've been trying to improve my technique and trying to be the most aggressive football player that I can out there. Coach Lou has done a great job and helped me with that as well. Going into the weight room, I've seen great improvement in my strength, and I've been really trying to work hard and gaining muscle, losing fat, and trying to become a quicker, faster, stronger offensive lineman to improve my game and really try to get to that next level. So to answer those questions, it's been a lot of improvement from last year, and I hope to see and I intend to see a lot of improvement in the next 3 months before the season.
Yeah, so overall, just a good day. We didn't hear about any major injuries. I think everyone came out of it quite well. And we'll focus on the defensive side of the spring game for Georgia Tech on our next show. Let's move on to the verbal submission. And I'll give you a quick recap of the UFC 261 activity that took place this weekend. I will be recording a verbal submission podcast. I know I promised on my last show that I was going to do one, and it didn't come out. It will come out this week because there's been a lot of news in the world of professional wrestling as well as mixed martial arts with UFC 261. So I do need to do a show completely dedicated to it. It will come out probably within the next day or two, hopefully, if all goes well in the world. And I will give a more extensive breakdown of each of these contests. But I wanted to give my initial thoughts on UFC 261, at least in the Sports Inquirer show, because a lot was going on there. Sound like a broken record once again. I guess I say broken record. I don't know if people you listen to records anymore. Sounds like a broken record. Things repeat on and on. Trying to think of a comparison in the modern world with MP3s and WAV files, but you get what I'm saying. I will do it again. Great to see fans and spectators at UFC 261 in Jacksonville, Florida. Full house, full sellout, which I'm a little dicey on, but I mean, I can't be contradictory. If I gave praise to entities in the state of Georgia for 100 or 50% capacity and things like that, what's really the difference between 50% and 100%? It is what it is. But we know about Florida, it's you're a little sketchy because they've been really open in a major way, but protocols have been put in and things along those lines. But it's still good to see spectators, especially at a mixed martial arts event. Football, you want to have the fans, and even in soccer, you want that. But you really want to crowd in that energy at a combat sport, whether it's boxing or mixed martial arts. And just to hear a crowd in the stands during the contest was a very cool thing. So I was happy to see that. What I got to go to some of the not off the wall, but before we get to the actual fights themselves, some of the other things that took place, ancillary things that took place during the night. Really heartbreaking to see Chris Weidman's broken leg in the fight against Uriah Hall. If you've seen the replay or you watched it live, one time is enough. We've seen obviously we saw with Anderson Silva, he broke his leg during a leg kick to Chris Weidman a few years ago, and the same exact thing happened to him. Thankfully, he's out of surgery, he's recovering, and we'll see what happens there. As I stated on Twitter when I saw it happen, my first thoughts was his lifestyle. Wasn't even in losing the fight, yes, and there are some parts of it. Uriah Hall does get the win, so I mean that he does get a victory, in his docket, and Wyman gets a loss. But it goes beyond that. And we've seen Anderson Silva come back, thankfully from his leg injury, and he's been fighting, again. But I think just about him and being able to, and he'll walk again and things like that. But that affects his entire lifestyle. His leg will never be the same, and you just worry about him being able to just function, to walk, and to be able to, walk a normal pace and things like that. I was more concerned about that than him fighting again or being a competitor in the UFC. I mean, if it's meant to be, it can happen, but you just hope that, because that was a really bad break, and that's going to alter his entire lifestyle. It's going to be a long road to recovery for normality, for him. So we look at it, and it was a reminder once again of any athlete putting themselves in harm and in danger. We thankfully don't see these type of injuries more often. They can happen on every event, quite easily, because what Wyman did was just a leg kick to the lower leg of Hall, and it hit that part of his leg and broke it. It's not. It happens every single fight that you watch. So it's just something that you don't want to see. And as I said, it sounds like the surgery was successful and he's in recovery. So hopefully that all works out for him just in life in general. But just watching that you don't want to see that ever in a fight or in any athletic competition. But yeah, so hopefully, as I said, it sounds like he's going to be. I said the surgery was well and he's going to recover from that. But man, that was ugly to see. I did see the Jake Paul antics. We talked about Jake Paul last week with his fight against Ben Askren and in the boxing match and all that stuff. And I said this will be the future of combat sports. And and Dana White, who we've had issues with in the past, but also he's done some very good things. I love in the post-fight press conference him condemning Jake Paul and kind of brushing him off like, oh, that's a little guy. He's made some money with his little boxing matches and whatever. But and obviously Jake Paul, he had the verbal confrontation with Daniel Cormier, and Dana in a post-fight press conference, saying, "Oh, he's never going to be in the UFC. We're never going to do business with him." How was he able to get a front row seat there at the event? Yeah, I don't think Jake Paul is ponying up the money for that. Similar to just seeing Tom Brady and all those guys right there, all the celebrities. Yeah, Jake Paul just happened to be in the front row. Daniel Cormier, a decorated UFC fighter and commentator, just happened to know where Jake Paul was in the stands, and the fans chanting "F Jake Paul." This is all a ruse. Now I don't know if he's going to be in the UFC, but we've seen CM Punk in the UFC, James Toney in the UFC. We've seen these guys come into and Kimbo Slice, rest in peace to Kimbo. But we've seen these guys outside of the typical mixed martial art range come into the UFC and compete. Jake Paul would not be scoffed at. It would not be looked at as insulting. This is the way that they operate. And I think what you're starting to see is some of these other guys are looking at guys like Jake Paul and seeing the money that's being generated with that fight program and saying, why don't I go into boxing and fight him in that regard? We've seen Frank Mir was on that same card, a decorated UFC mixed martial artist. He was on that card. So we saw Ben Askren, who is a respected mixed martial artist. He was in that fight against Jake Paul. You don't think Daniel Cormier, who I'm sure we all could use the money that they're making. You don't think that he would go into a thriller, and that's the name of the promotion, and fight in that promotion? He absolutely would do that in a second if the money is right and the situations work out. So I think that, and it's not going to take down the UFC. It's not going to take down the boxing organizations. But the fact that you're seeing Jake Paul in that entity of the UFC is, and you saw the fan reaction, F Jake Paul, he is finding a way to draw attention to himself, and the antics are working, and all those fans saying those negative derogatory words. I'm not saying what they actually said. We don't curse too much on the show, but they expressed their opinion. You don't think Dana White, or we saw Conor McGregor fight Floyd Mayweather, and White was very much behind that promotion and setup of that fight. So we're gonna see Jake Paul in. I don't know if he's gonna be a mixed martial artist, but we're gonna see a UFC fighter go in there against Jake Paul in some capacity. And if Dana's smart, he's gonna be in the middle of it. Now to the actual card itself. I mean, Usman, welterweight champion. We're starting to see some cases being made. At least two of these championship fights that take place. I'm not a big greatest of all time guy because you have to let, as far as active fighters, because you have to let these fighters complete their careers, and then you can look back and see where they kind of rank overall. But man, Usman's dominance of Jorge Masvidal was tremendous. Second round knockout punch to retain the welterweight championship. I mean, the guy is just a tremendous fighter who has won all of his UFC fights. You know, he's just outside of a loss early in his career, not in the UFC. He has been absolutely dominant in that welterweight division, and everyone's beatable, but he is. I don't really see. I know Colby Culberson, I guess, is the guy that may be next in line for the belt. I don't generally root for people. I mean, I have my favorites here and there, but I will personally, Culberson just he makes me very annoyed. Look him up, and you'll see a lot of reasons why. Usman going in there with him, I would have some fun entertainment seeing Usman take him out in a major way. But similar to Jake Paul, Kobe has found a way to promote himself and make himself a person that's not very likable. So that would be an interesting fight to see. But we'll see what happens with Usman. Valentina Shevchenko, complete dominance TKO victory over Jessica Andrade. And Andrade is a UFC champion in the past in her own right. Valentina completely dominated her with that TKO. Similar deal. I don't see a flyweight that's going to come in and take her out right now, but just a dominant performance by Shevchenko to earn that victory. We saw Rose Namajunas defeat Zhang Weili in the women's strawweight championship. So Rose got her championship back over Zhang. A little bit of a surprise there. I thought Zhang would be I had her as the favorite, and she was the champion coming into the match. But Rose hit the head kick and was able to get the knockout. Very solid victory for Rose, who now gets back her strawweight championship. I'd like to see a rematch of that in the very near future, because I think now you could say each of them has won, and we can really find a way to find an ultimate winner. I'm trying to see. Let's see. But that was their. I thought they fought before. No, that was their first fight against each other. So Rose might have a little bit more of a case to maybe fight someone else in the competition. Now, it was Zhang's first loss in the UFC. Yes, that I have correct. But yes, but still, just the dominant performance by Rose, who now finds herself, as I said, the strawweight champion of the UFC. And so we'll see what happens, there with that. So those are my thoughts on UFC 261. And as I said, we'll do a nice breakdown in verbal submission, a little bit more about the technicalities of what we saw within those certain fights. So make sure you tune in to the verbal submission for that later on this week or in the very near future. And we're going to wrap up the show as far as the actual content with the interview feature. We were able to catch up with the Georgia State men's golf head coach Chad Wilson. The Panthers are currently playing in the Sun Belt Championships, the conference tournament for Georgia State. And we were able to catch up with Chad before they took off to Arkansas to play in the event. So here is our exclusive interview, or an interview feature with Chad Wilson, head coach of Georgia State men's golf.
All right, good day, everybody. This is E. Marcel Purdue, the Sports Inquirer, and we are joined by Georgia State men's golf head coach Chad Wilson. Chad, thank you for joining us today. I know you have a very busy time preparing for the conference tournament. Before we get to that, I want to go over that Wofford tournament victory that you won last week. First tournament victory for the Panthers since 2017 when you won conference, and I think your first one regular season since 2016. So what was that like winning a tournament as a team for the first time in several years?
It was a lot of fun. I think we put that tournament on our schedule because we wanted to be in contention. We wanted to be able to feel what it's like to possibly hold a lead and have those nerves as we come down the stretch and really be able to handle that situation before we got to conference. And so that was the goal, and I think we did a really good job of that.
Yeah, you had 4 players in the top 15 individually, including your freshman, Maxine Magner. Hope I'm saying his name correctly. But what about your unit individually, just having those 4 guys finish in the top half of the individual standings?
It's great. I mean, it just shows you that we're playing really well at the right time. You work all year. It's a process to get better each and every day, and we're in a really good spot as we leave tomorrow before we go to our conference championship.
Yeah, and just how's the season been so far for your unit? We've dealing with the pandemic and everything like that, and even your year was cut short last year as far as your spring session. But just how has the 2021 campaign been for you, being able to play, to now a full season?
Yeah, it hasn't been as smooth as we thought it would be, and we haven't played as well as we thought we should have. There were moments where we were able to see just how good of a team we were, but we were really struggling to find a way to put it together for 3 days or for the entire tournament. But the challenges of COVID were something that we knew we were going to have to handle going into this. I thought we were really prepared for it. The guys have done a great job with social distancing and wearing their mask, and so we're in a good spot, but it definitely was more challenging than we anticipated.
What were those challenges? Because I think many would assume golf is one you can be socially distanced, just the sport itself, just the way it's set up. Just was it the challenge maybe you being able to not interact as much with your players, or the players not being able to get rounds together? What were those challenges that you had to overcome?
Honestly, I think the most difficult challenge that we had to face was wearing the N95 masks in our van. And I think the first trip, we really understood how difficult that was going to be. And so from then on, we just had to plan to stop more than we used to. That way we could give the guys a break, whether it was stopping to go hit golf balls at a driving range or go play a course on the way to a tournament. But spreading that out was the trip time was something that we had to learn on the fly. And then I also think, as you get towards the end of the semester, the guys are seeing their friends go out more. The weather's turning, to be able to go and do stuff outside, and you're just really having to protect yourself and protect the team, and just being disciplined. And I think the guys have done a great job of that. We are where we're at, and we're leaving for conference tomorrow.
Yeah, and let's get to that. You leave for your conference tournament. Take place in Arkansas, I believe. Yes, this weekend. Just how have you used that time off? Because the last time you were on the course was about 10 days ago, or maybe less than that. But still, you didn't play this past weekend. How have you used this extra preparation time to get ready for conference?
Yeah, we're in a unique situation. We've never been to the golf course, and we've only been able to see it online. We've been able to look at it through Google Earth, and they actually had a tournament that was played out there this week, a women's conference championship that we kind of followed along to see how that went. But, one thing that we did know going into it was you're going to have to drive the ball long and straight. And then no matter where you're at, you got to be able to putt and chip. And so those are kind of like the areas that we focused on this week, along with making sure the guys get all their schoolwork done. Because we do have finals coming up next week, and we're going to be gone. So those guys that are in the travel squad just really have to prepare to get their not only their golf ready to go, but making sure all their schoolwork is in place. So when they get back, they're not as stressed.
Yeah, and just your thoughts on the program in general. You're a Kennesaw State alum. You've been around the state for a variety of capacities, and you've been with the Georgia State program a few years. Just where do you think the program is right now, and just where you're trying to develop it as you move through just your tenure there?
Yeah, I think we're in a good spot right now. We're certainly getting more elite level golfers that have really tremendous resumes talking with us. And a lot of that has to do with the practice facility and the schedule that we play. So we're certainly in a good spot. The team that we have this year has probably been my favorite team. A lot of potential. Haven't really reached that potential just yet. But hopefully we're on the way to doing that. But the program itself is in a good spot, and we're really excited for the future. We have two really young golfers that are just fantastic kids and fantastic golfers. And so, you add them with the guys that we already have returning, it's going to be a fun year next year as well.
Yeah, and two things. I want to get back to that your schedule, but how have you handled that roster makeup? I'm going to speak with Josh Edgar later on today. He's a fifth-year senior. He came back. You have some talented freshmen. How have you handled that extra year of eligibility balance of some guys that you may have a little bit longer than you expected, which may affect your numbers and things like that?
It certainly has affected the numbers, and not just with our program, just across the board. I think my assistant and I really took the approach that we're going to try to keep the guys that we have here on our roster. I know who they are. We know about their games. We know what their academics are like. And it's just a lot easier to manage that. I think, the 10 guys that we have on this roster are great individuals outside of golf. And so our plan moving forward is to continue to bring those guys back as much as we can, but also that they're going to have to understand that they're probably going to have to make more of a financial decision to stay if they want to have that extra year. But we're going to do our best to keep our roster the way it is if the kids want to come back.
Yeah, and you mentioned your practice course. Georgia obviously is one of the around the world a central area for golf. But when you say your schedule is an attractive feature, what do you mean by that?
We play a lot of We play a tough schedule. We try to set up where we know we're going to get to play against the best college teams, the best amateurs in the world, but also on championship style golf courses. That's always going to be a priority for us. And I think we've done a great job with that. We travel out to Arizona. We'll be out in Colorado next year. And then, yes, like you said, this area in the South is great for golf. But you also need to be able to play against those teams that are on the West Coast as well and try to get some wins against those teams because they're great out there as well. That way you're not just playing the same people over and over every single week whenever you go out.
All right, and that concludes today's show. Thanks for listening to our broadcast. As always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership, to sportsinquirer.net, where you get all of our content. You can also go to our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under Sports Inquirer. And finally, go to our audio and video content providers such as YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes. And do a search there for us under Sports Inquirer, and you'll be able to get all of our content as we provide it. So until next time, as always, good fight, good night, and be safe.